What's going on YouTube? It's Teach back again with another video, and today I'm giving you my picks for week 11 of the NFL season. Excited to bring this your way. Hey, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, hit that big red subscribe button. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up. It would also help me and my channel out a ton. And go ahead and give me your picks down in the comments section. As I go along, we're going to be talking about picks against the spread, but my record, which will be across the bottom of the screen now, is just for picking winners. So that's kind of where I start, and then we'll talk a little bit about the spread for each and every game. One last piece of house cleaning before we get underway. Again, sorry, I know it's just my picks this week. It's just the easiest and simplest thing I can push out on top of everything with work. I'm going to my third state over the last 3 weekends, so definitely staying busy. But that aside, I think next week's when I can get back to my regular 3 videos a week. If you're wondering where my power rankings are, maybe some draft content, that's going to be picking back up, I believe, next week. If not next week, then definitely the week after. As we move into basketball season, things sort of slow down. So all that aside, let's jump right into it. Starting with Thursday Night Football. Yeah, I'm taking New England here, right? This is kind of more of a fun novelty matchup. Hey, it's a rematch of that Super Bowl 28-3, but two teams heading in opposite directions, right? Now, that said, we could have said the same thing last Thursday, right, where the Dolphins felt like one of the worst teams in football. Baltimore felt like, this was their chance for Lamar to be the Heisman frontrunner all of a sudden and prove that maybe they're the best team in the AFC. That didn't happen. I think there were some other extenuating circumstances. Here, I just see a team that's completely better on one side of the field versus the other. Plus, it's in a dome, so I think it only helps New England's offense that much more. And Mac Jones played fantastic last Sunday. I think he continues to play really good football moving forward, and the Falcons defense don't stand much in the way of that Pats offense, so that also leads me to believe that Mac Jones might be in for a big game. Also, potentially new Cordero Patterson. Doesn't look like they're going to have Cordero Patterson. Who's been one of the best players in football this year, so it's kind of Kyle Pitts doing it all on his own, and I think the Pats defense will have an answer for that. On to the Sunday slate. Bills and Colts, and by the way, I would take the Pats to cover that 7. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Bills to win. I'd probably take the Colts to cover this. Part of the reason I think this number is a little overinflated is because of what the Bills did last week compared to what we saw them do 2 weeks ago. Now, that said, between those 2 weeks of seeing the Bills play, I think last week's closer to what I truly think that team is versus 2 weeks ago against the Jags. But 7 points against a solid football team in and around the playoff discussion feels a little steep. So because of that, I think the Bills are a better team and they're at home. I feel confident with them winning, but I definitely think this is a touchdown game. Keep in mind, these two teams played in the wild card and it was close then. Obviously, playing in the playoffs is going to naturally just raise the stakes, and teams are going to fight to the end like the Colts did. But yeah, I think this game's within a touchdown. I'd go Colts to cover the 7 there. Bears and Ravens. I'll take the Ravens on the road, and I think this is one where Justin Fields might have a whole lot of pressure coming his way, and I mean, the Ravens are naturally a team that blitz a lot. That's that Wink Martindale, scheme, and I'll take a good pass rush against a rookie quarterback any day of the week. Now, I think Fields played pretty good 2 weeks ago against Monday. They also had the bye last week to try to get ready and prepare for this matchup. We'll see what that might lead to, but also not to hit Matt Nagy while he's down. He's not a head coach that when I see, they're coming off a bye, that could mean something. Matt Nagy's just not that guy to me. So maybe it's just more so getting guys healthy and an extra week of rest than the prep side of it. But I think the Ravens are just completely a better football team, and I'd take them to cover this 5. Now, if it was 7, we'd be talking, but those numbers between 3 and 7 are rather inconsequential. So give me the Ravens to cover that 5. Then we get the Browns and Lions. Yeah, I'm going to take Cleveland to win here, 11 points. I mean, I'm somebody who, if you saw my picks video last week, or anybody who is a friend of mine will let you know, I thought the Lions legitimately were going to win that game prior to it being played. Then you have the whole Big Ben thing come out, and it was kind of hard to differentiate who was worse, Detroit or Pittsburgh. And the reason I'm mentioning that now when we're talking about the Lions is, if that game, let's say, was 27-27 and went to a tie and both teams played great and it was tough to tell who was better and who was worse, that would be a positive indictment on the Lions. Instead, both those teams just looked really, really bad. And honestly, I don't think either one of them deserved a tie. They should have both gotten lost if it was up to me. But that's obviously with no repercussions on my end. So That said, I just think the Lions are still a ways away, and this feels like a get-right game, right? It feels like the Browns understand last week was a huge dud to lay, so Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield have that much more on their plate, and this is a game where you can pick on the Lions and win by 30 and be like, hey, look, we're okay, and I think that's going to end up being the case. So I'd take Cleveland to cover this 11, even though I know I was saying 7 here's a lot and 7 here's a lot. I think just some of the narratives coming to this one, I think the Lions played, quote-unquote, their hearts out last week and got their first non-loss. Congratulations for that. But I think the Browns are going to try to right the ship and fix the narrative train in a big way this week, so therefore they cover the 11 points. Titans and Texans, I'll take the Titans to win. To cover, I'm not so sure. This is a team that I think is going to be playing a lot of close games until at least they get Julio Jones back, and I don't know if they're going to get Derrick Henry back this year. If they get to the playoffs, it feels like that door is more ajar than it is for the regular season, but this is a Tennessee team that I think we need to start having the discussion, is Ryan Tannehill elite? Now, when I say that, I don't mean it in the sense that he's better all time than Brady, or he's right there neck and neck with Rodgers. Matt Ryan had a 3-year pocket where he was an elite quarterback. Big Ben had a 3 to 4 year pocket where he was an elite. Tony Romo is another great example of that. Sometimes these guys just have these 3-4 year streaks where they're elite quarterbacks. And we might have found Ryan Tannehill's in 90 plus PFF grade the last 2 years. He's been stellar this year, and he's the only reason this team's afloat in a lot of ways. On the offensive side, at least, the defense has been great. Mike Vrabel right now is my coach of the year. But Tannehill deserves a ton of credit. So maybe we need to start having that discussion that he's in that elite tier quarterbacks. Now, how much longer will it go? That's a different talk for a different day. But right now, he's playing like one of the best in the biz. And like I said, Mike Vrabel will be my coach of the year. He's done a tremendous job coaching up that side of the ball. And even with the Titans being shorthanded, they're just a better football team. They present better talent than what the Houston Texans have. And, for Houston, that's fine based off where they are. It's going to get more interesting once we get to more compelling matchups for Tennessee versus Houston. But it's a division rival. I could see this being a backdoor cover. So if we're talking to 10 points, give me the Texans to cover that. And then we get to Green Bay and Minnesota. And it feels like every Vikings game, Vegas is kind of woken up a little bit. They're starting to, no matter what, put that spread pretty close to that 2.5 mark. Here it's at 2 as of the time we'll be recording this Wednesday night. Green Bay's just better, and Aaron Rodgers always has big games against Minnesota. This guy can go crazy, and there haven't been a whole lot of QBs over the last few weeks to really pick on what that secondary is for Minnesota, but if there's a guy to do it, it's Aaron Rodgers, right? And you get Devontae Adams back. Green Bay hasn't lost with Rodgers under center since week 1. That's pretty impressive in itself. Big win for Minnesota last week, and if you're a Vikings fan, you're hoping that turns into some more momentum this upcoming week. Again, the defense is playing really well, and they've been able to hide that secondary, which, a lot of credit there to Mike Zimmer, what he's done on the defensive side, but also Minnesota on the offensive side with the play calling from younger Kubiak, the OC. Sometimes it's a little too conservative, and this is a game where if you let off the pedal, I think it's going to cost you. I know there's no Aaron Jones for Green Bay, but A.J. Dillon's run the football really well all year long, and I think Green Bay's just going to be able to fill in pretty well with their rotation to cover that loss. So I'll take the Packers to win and take 2 points with it on the road. Haven't made an upset pick this week yet. Is this it? No, it's not. I'm going to take the Dolphins. Joe Flacco starting for the Jets. I'm not taking Joe Flacco to win a football game, not unless it's all of a sudden 2010 or whatever, all over again. But nah, I'm not going to do it. And maybe this is a part of the year where we start to see the Dolphins click. They're probably not going to re-enter the conversation for the playoffs, but maybe this defense figures it out. They played really well the last 2 weeks, and they've been able to be scheme versatile. They've been putting a lot of pressure on their corners, and Byron Jones and Xavier Howard have answered that call. Still need some work on the offense. The O-line is still putrid, but trying to install some confidence in Tua and figure out what that offense looks like long-term would do this team a lot of positive, big picture. So maybe this is another one of those games where, the Jets are still in a rebuild. We were a team that were, supposed to compete and be in the playoff mix coming into the year. This could be a game they use to try to quote unquote right the ship, but also just right the franchise, right? Get that, the rust or slug off their back from what they had at the beginning of the year and still make some steps in the right direction. A lot of young and new pieces still across the board, despite everybody liking them coming into the season. Then we get to the Saints and the Eagles. The Eagles favored by 2. Look, Trevor Siemian hasn't looked bad. Jalen Hurts and him cannot be that far apart. I think Hurts is better. Naturally because of his mobile ability, right? He gives you that dual threat nature. And I've always thought that, Hurts could minimum be a high-end backup, that, Tyrod Taylor, cut from the cloth. Trevor Siemian I've never seen as that type of guy. He's just a backup quarterback as opposed to a high-end backup. But I think the rest of the team around him is better, and it makes up for it. We'll see about, Alvin Kamara and how that plays down throughout the rest of the week. But the Saints are coming off a 2-point loss to Tennessee, who's been scrappy and finding ways to win. They only have 2 losses this year out in Nashville. So why can't they do the same thing against Philadelphia, who I don't think is as good as Tennessee right now? So give me the Saints, and Sean Payton's going to find another way. We talked about Mike Vrabel, but Sean Payton should be right there in that Coach of the Year conversation as well. So there's my first non-favorite pick for the week. Hopefully I can come up with another one here. Panthers and Washington football team. This is the Ron Rivera and Cam Newton rekindling, but this time from across the sidelines. Anyways, I like the way Carolina looked last week. Their defense continues to prove that it is legit. I never had a qualm with Phil Snow or what they have on that side of the football. Those young guys are making plays. Shaq Thompson is fantastic. Hassan Reddick, what a nice signing he's been opposite of Brian Burns, who is still getting better and better. Derek Brown, really good football player as well. And they've been able to hedge the losses that they've had in the secondary, right? Troy Pride before the year, and then J.C. Horn after the first couple of weeks. And it was really nice to see Washington get a win last week, and one that we didn't really understand. That feels more a case of where the NFL is right now. I said this coming into the year, and I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to pat my back or take a victory lap, but there are more average, adequate, competitive, whatever word you want to use, quarterbacks in the league. Therefore, the NFL is as even as it's ever been. Outside of the Texans and the Lions, and you could probably lump the Jags and Jets in there, every other team could be competitive with another one week in and week out. Look, I mean, the Falcons beat the Saints. We have the Jets beating the Titans one week. We don't understand that. Every team at the top of the NFL has this weird loss to a team that you just can't quite understand. And for the Bucs, one of them is the Washington football team last week. And I really can't explain what happened there on a big scale level. But I think, you come down to earth. They're hitting the road this week. I think things are going to stabilize a little bit there. So I'll take Carolina to win and cover the 3.5. I don't know if I've talked spread, but I'd feel comfortable with Packers 2, Dolphins 3.5, and Saints give me the 2 points on top of me taking them to win. So thank you very much, Vegas. Sorry, a little catch up there. 49ers and Jags. 49ers. This is a little bit different than Washington, which is going to sound a little hypocritical here. I think Washington, it's more so they got a big win. They come crashing down to reality because that clearly just was such an outlier from what we've seen previously. And even if you liked them, I had them winning the division coming into the season. That exceeded my expectations, what I saw Sunday against the Bucs. What I saw from San Francisco last week is what I thought they were going to be coming into the year. So it's not them breaking what they have been this year. It was almost them finding out and clicking. It was almost like they found their identity once again, and that's scary. This team starts clicking down the stretch. They could be that team. This is right around the time of the year, week 12, 13, 14, where those Super Bowl winning Giants teams get hot. The Steelers, the year they were in the wild card and they went to the Super Bowl. Late year, teams get hot, and those are the scary ones you see in the playoffs make a deep run. And maybe San Francisco's that team this year. We'll see. I mean, odds are the way the NFL's gone, it was a big win last week, and then now it's going to be a disappointing loss to the Jags. But I'm taking San Francisco to make it back-to-back wins, and I'll take them to cover the 6. I'm kind of surprised it's not a little bit more. I really don't see a whole lot with the Jags, though the Jags defense and their pass rush in specific has been playing really well. I don't think that's going to be a factor against Kyle Shanahan and that offense. I mean, Trent Williams in specific has been maybe the best tackle in football the last 2 years, so who's to say he can't neutralize Josh Allen opposite him? You take away Josh Allen, then you're really asking Taven Bryan to play a lot better football than he has, despite him having a career year this year. And then Caleb Chason has been a non-factor. I think if you take away Josh Allen, you're in a good spot, and they'll move him around because you'd like to avoid Trent Williams, and if at all possible, Mike McGlinchey is a better run blocker than pass blocker. That's probably the matchup you want to try to exploit. I'm getting down a rabbit hole here, but nonetheless, I'll take San Francisco on the road by 6 points, and I'll take them to cover that touchdown margin. Bengals and Raiders, I really wanted to believe in this Raiders team, but it just hasn't looked the same, and part of it is so much going on off the field. But look, last week, even beyond all the stuff that is going on off of the field, like I just mentioned, you have got to change your scheme there. Just like the Ravens against the Chiefs, they understood, hey, the more you blitz Mahomes, the better he seems to get, which defies logic in itself. But hey, we're going to take that data point, and we're going to adjust our scheme and what we normally do. The Raiders, instead of switching from that cover 1, cover 3 look where you have a single high safety and you're playing one high a ton, didn't shift to a cover or a 2 high look. That's cover 2, 4, 6. That's an adjustment they had to make. And then you play Clinton Dix, or even if you do stick Jonathan Abrams out there. You have to change that look and limit the amount of big plays you give up to Kansas City. Force them to play underneath. Force them into 10-yard drives. They've said they don't like that. If they're giving it to you, you have to play that style of defense, and they just didn't. And now they're going up against another super explosive offense, so I think that they might get picked apart once again by Joe Burrow and company. So I'm taking the Bengals, and it's a 1-point spread, so I'll take Cincy to cover as well. Chiefs-Cowboys, I'm taking Dallas on the road. I think you're going to see a lot of 2 high looks, despite Dan Quinn and his cover 3 background. He has started to implement a lot more quarters, and where Gus Bradley did not make that adjustment, I think Dan Quinn is a smart enough guy that he will. And if they can just slow down Mahomes just enough, Dallas' offense has plenty of firepower in their own right to get the job done, right? And Michael Gallup came back last week, so now they have their full complementary of wide receivers, the 2 tight ends, the running backs are great, Dak Prescott's fantastic, and they're coming off a 40-point bludgeoning of the Falcons. So that was a nice little layup game, get things back on track after a loss 2 weeks ago, and now they have their eyes set on Kansas City, who might have gotten back on track. I think that was more a factor from Las Vegas not changing their defense and playing that single high cover 1, cover 3 defense that doesn't work against Kansas City. But I don't think you'll see that as much this week against Dallas. So I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. And there's your other upset pick for the week. Give me Dallas over Kansas City. Cardinals, Seahawks. I mean, obviously this is a big if here. I think 2.5 would lead you to believe that this is accounting for Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins playing, which I hope they are. And if they are, then yeah, I'll take Arizona. Seattle always plays games close, but 2.5 points is just outside that 3-point window, so I'd feel pretty comfortable taking Arizona with a 2.5-point mark. That said, if it's not Kyler and no DeAndre Hopkins, then yeah, definitely running the other direction towards Seattle, and you'll see these numbers shift a ton. But Arizona's just a good football team. Last week, obviously, it's tough to play catch up with Colt McCoy. So there's only so much you can do if you fall behind late, and also there's just kind of the revigoration in the room for Carolina. Right, Cam's back. I don't know if you saw that or he let you know, but he's back, and that just means so much for that team and that franchise, that city in general. I was actually driving through Charlotte and that game was being played, and that place was buzzing. So he means a lot. So you feel like that gave the Panthers an extra pick me up. But I think new slate, new game. Give me Arizona. I think it's going to be close because Seattle always plays games close. But this is going to be a really fun one to watch at 4:25. Then Sunday Night Football. I think the Chargers are going to get back on track against Pittsburgh. No Minka Fitzpatrick, so one of the bigger playmakers for the Steelers is out. That's already a position where they're already pretty thin at safety. So that's kind of a big loss, no doubt about it, despite it not being a position that you look to and say, hey, that's going to decide this game. And additionally, Pittsburgh's offense is putrid. I know last week was Mason Rudolph, and it's hard to imagine there's QBs worse than Big Ben, but even with Big Ben, it's just tough to watch. And I think there's enough talent on LA's defense to slow down Pittsburgh, and I think Joe Lombardi, even if he doesn't come out of his shell, Chargers can win this game 21-7. and it'd just be a really boring Sunday Night Football game to watch, and that might be what we get. But hopefully it's Joe Lombardi coming out of a shell, and he's really the big talking point as of right now. And I haven't been able to voice this opinion. It's not wrong that the Chargers have quick game, and they want to run a lot of slants, and they like these hitch concepts. That's fine. It's one of those things where you need it in moderation, just like anything, right? You need to air it out, and I'm sure if the Chargers were only throwing deep bombs and trying to push the ball 30, 40 yards down the field and wasn't uber effective, people would be saying, okay, well, now you're taking way too many deep shots. Justin Herbert doesn't take the easy ones, or, whatever the case may be. It'd be kind of like the conversation we're having with Kansas City. You need to have a little bit of both, and you need to be able to work the intermediate part of the field as well. Those comeback digs, backside digs, I should say, just comeback routes. There's a lot of different things you want in an offense, and if I can understand this, I'm sure Joe Lombardi does too. So I'm sure that's part of him and Brandon Staley's process for this week. How can we open up the offense, and how do we get more diverse plays in there? How can we attack different levels of the field as opposed to always playing shallow, especially with a guy like Justin Herbert? You need to be able to use that arm to your advantage, right? Like a team like Cincinnati, if Joe Burrow had Justin Herbert's arm, good God almighty, I'd love to see what that offense would look like. But LA has that at their disposal, and they need to take advantage of it. So I think this is a week where you're going to start seeing the Chargers in prime time start to stretch the field and attack in different areas. And I think they're going to have some good success against Pittsburgh. And then the Monday night game, give me the Bucs to win, and I'll take them to cover. Cover late, though. I think this game will stay close for the most part until the latter portion. The big reason is back-to-back losses for Tampa adds so much more to this game. I think they're a team that understands we need to start playing good football right around this time, right? This is a football team that has, future Hall of Fame head coach, a former head coach as a defensive coordinator, an OC that has played in the playoffs and might become a head coach pretty soon, and then Tom Brady is your quarterback, and then they also went to the Super Bowl last year. So they understand this is the time of the year where they need to start to kick it into high gear. In the Giants, it's just tough, man. What might keep the G-Men in this one is the Bucs pass rush has not been as effective as it was in the first 3 to 4 weeks of the year, so that might hide the Giants' weakness. And the last couple of years, the Giants have played it close, right? It was Daniel Jones' debut where he had like 5 total touchdowns and kind of went throw for throw, and it was really interesting to watch. And then last year, they played a close contest, and now both teams coming off their bye. So I'm excited to see that Monday night game. I think it's going to be an interesting one for about 2.5 to 3 quarters, and then I think Tampa Bay will pull away towards the end because they're just a better football team, and they'll have the exploits. Also, a better coached team. So that's part of that. As the game goes on, you start to see which team's better, and I think part of that is coaching as well. But at long last, that is going to do it for my picks for Week 11 of the NFL season. Tell me what you think down in the comments section. Where am I right? Tell me where I'm wrong. Love to have your thoughts down in the comments section. Hey, if you're new to the channel, like what you saw, want to see more of it, hit that big red subscribe button. And if you did enjoy today's video, hit that like button. That's all I got for you. Until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.